So today I'm going to give you 3 tips for mixing your music in Dolby Atmos. First one is something to be aware of, second one is something to consider, and the third one is a Dolby spec you absolutely have to adhere to. So when it comes to mixing music in Atmos, the first thing I want to talk about is the center channel and LFE channel. Now in the world of mixing in stereo, we don't have a center channel, but if you have a sound source that's equal volume in the left and the right speaker, say a kick drum or a vocal, this creates what's called a phantom center. Now when we're mixing music in Atmos, not only can we utilize the phantom center, but we can also utilize an actual center channel speaker. But here's the thing that you have to keep in mind. A vocal, for instance, will sound very different when using the phantom center versus using the actual center channel. And this goes for a kick drum or anything else you decide to put in the actual center channel speaker. And also I just learned the other day that Universal Music, when it comes to any of the Atmos mixes for their artists, they do not want anything in the center channel. Why, I have no idea, but that's the spec that they want. So I'm not saying don't use the center channel speaker, but just keep that in mind. Now for the LFE channel, which stands for low frequency effect. Now in film and such, this channel is just used for like low rumble, explosions, things like that. Sometimes a little bit of low end from the music in the film might be put into this, but generally not. And for the most part, music-wise, the LFE channel is kind of pointless, and let me explain why. Now you might think, oh, I'll be able to get my bass to sound lower, my kick to hit harder on the low end if I put some of it into the LFE channel. But here's the thing, you have to remember on consumer electronics, like say somebody's got a Dolby Atmos receiver and all these speakers in their living room. That receiver isn't going to have a dedicated LFE channel. It's just going to have a subwoofer output, which is acting as double duty. It's being fed the LFE channel and anything below, say, 80 Hertz or wherever the crossover on that receiver happens to be. So sending the low end of your kick or your bass to the LFE channel in your mix is kind of pointless because any consumer playback system is going to send that low frequency information to the subwoofer anyway. So again, I'm not saying don't experiment with using the LFE channel, but just something to keep in mind. Alright, tip number 2, bed tracks and objects. Now the big difference between the two that I want to discuss today is how they arrive at the master output. Now anything that's a bed track is going to arrive at the master output the same way it would in any stereo track. The signal is going to start at the top, go through any effects plugins you have, and then output to your speakers. Object tracks, on the other hand, bypass this. So in any DAW, you're going to have a Dolby Atmos plugin, and any object tracks feed directly to this. So let's say in your chain on your master bus, you have a bus compressor, you have the Atmos plugin, and then you have a limiter. Anything that's a bed track is going to go through the compressor, the Atmos plugin, and the limiter. Anything that's an object is going to skip the compressor, go straight into the Atmos plugin, and then through the limiter. So this is something you need to be aware of when determining whether you want to have effects before or after the Atmos plugin. And tip number 3 has to do with the -18 dB spec from Dolby. Now, what does that even mean? Now, in the world of stereo, we smash, we compress the life out of everything, and that's just the way it is. But when you're mixing in Atmos, you cannot do this. And if you go to submit a song to be put on Apple Music or anything like that, and it doesn't meet the spec, your song will be rejected. You'll have to fix it and resubmit it. So how do we hit that spec? What are we looking for? So first thing you have to do is open your Atmos plugin on your master bus and set your monitoring to 5.1. Why you have to set it to this? I don't know, ask Dolby. But you set it to 5.1 and you open up a loudness meter and you play your song from the very beginning to the very end. And that will give you the average loudness of the song. That average loudness has to be -18 dB or lower. If it's -18, you're good. If it's -19, you're fine. If it's -17.9, it is out of spec and it'll be rejected. Same thing with true peak. True peak has to be -1 or less. If your true peak's -1, you're good. It could be -3, you're good. If it's -0.9, it's out of spec and your mix will be rejected. So those are my 3 quick tips for you for mixing music in Dolby Atmos. And since it's looking like Atmos is going to become the new standard, we're going to do a lot more of these. So if you have any comments or questions, as always, just leave them down below. I just want to thank everyone for watching. I've been Mr. Jeff, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So take it easy. Bye.